Good evening. Welcome to the City of Sugar Land City Council meeting for Tuesday, May 21st. A little bit about the agenda tonight. In a minute, we're going to have Councilmember McCutcheon do the invocation, the pledge. That's going to be followed by 4 recognitions, the first of which I think you're going to want to be here for. It's a very special recognition, very heartfelt. So, Carol, are you ready?
Yes. I invite you to join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we pause at this time to give thanks for the men and women who lead our nation, our state, and our city. Thank you for their dedication and commitment. Thank you for our city staff. In particular, thank you for Glenda Gunderman's 35 years of incredible service to our city. Thank you for our brave soldiers who protect our national interest around the world. As we approach this Memorial Day, we especially give thanks to those who have given their lives defending and protecting our nation. Please continue to comfort and strengthen their families. And Father, we also thank you for the first responders right here in our own city who faithfully serve every day to watch over and protect our families and homes. As we meet now, please guide our thoughts and our words. Give us wisdom, discernment, courage, and compassion. Help us lead in a way that glorifies you and honors our citizens. It is with humility and gratitude that we make these requests. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Now for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As I said, you're in for a real treat tonight. Glenda, I'm going to ask you and Mayor Thompson to come join me up here, please. Jimmy didn't know I was going to do this, so. As I said earlier, as Carol said when she did the prayer, Glenda served our city for 35 years and 7 months. Jimmy was with her for 17 years as a council member and a mayor, and then I was with her almost that long because, as I reminded people earlier, she rejected me twice on the Planning and Zoning Commission, but I finally got on, and I served for all 8 years before being term limited. She joined the city, of course we were incorporated in '59, she joined us on October 3rd of 1983, and she had a profound impact on many of the technological things that you see that have improved our city. It's been more accessible. It's been much more transparent. She was on the leadership team when we did the annexations not only of Sugar Creek, First Colony, Avalon, River Park, Greatwood, and New Territory. She managed the requirements for our open meetings, our Freedom of Information Act requests, and you guys have no idea how many of those we get that she had to labor over to get that information out, and now Thomas does that same thing. She served under 6 mayors: McMeans, Duggan, Robotchik, Wallace, Thompson, and now me. 2 city managers, David Neely and Alan Bogart. That's extraordinary. I mean, that really is. Jimmy will tell you that too. We've got a proclamation, but before I do that, I wanted to ask Jimmy if he wanted to say a few words too. Jimmy?
I'm fine, Mayor. I've already said my comments in there. So
Jimmy's a man of few words for those of you that... Glenda, I'm going to read a proclamation and ask if you'd like to say something. To Glenda Gunderman, 35 years, 7 months of public service, the City of Sugar Land. Whereas Glenda Gunderman came to the City of Sugar Land on October the 3rd of 1983 as our City Secretary, and has been a part of many major city milestones, creating a lasting legacy that will never be forgotten, and is retiring as the longest tenured city secretary since the city was incorporated in 1959. And whereas Glenda has served our citizens and visitors to the city of Sugar Land with the utmost attention to detail and professionalism, always representing and keeping the city vision and best interest in high regards, we call it the Sugar Land way. And whereas these 35 plus years of service have been marked by caring, integrity, the highest of standards, dedication to responsibilities, close attention to detail, you guys have no idea, to city policies and standards, as has earned her the recognition by and respect of her colleagues as a pioneer in her profession. And Glenda, we said it earlier, I can't say it enough. We love you and we wish you and Paul all the best in retirement.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I just would like to say to my staff, who is truly the working people in the Office of City Secretary, and who have made the City Secretary's office and the work that they do, the success that you see from our office in a lot is attributed to them. Would you stand, please? I won't call your names, but if you'll just stand so the people can see you. Thank you for your service. To the citizens of Sugar Land and the residents of Sugar Land, I'd simply like to say thank you for believing in me, for having the confidence in me that I would do the right thing, that the responses that I would do when for all of the actions that were taken, that you knew that the response would always be within the realm of the law and within the governance that was an absolute must within the city. Thank you for believing in me, for trusting me. Thank you for being my friends. Thank you for always knowing that my door was open and that you could come in and visit with me, and that if you had a concern or a care, that you would always come in and share that concern or care with me, and know that the response that I would give to you, while oftentimes I might have to say no, you always accepted it, and I appreciate and thank you so very much. I thank my husband for the many years of service that he allowed me to have with the city. Sugar Land will always be my home. I will always be very grateful for it. But always remember that Sugar Land today is what it is because of the wonderful staff that you have working for the city and the Sugar Land way. Never forget, the Sugar Land way is what has made Sugar Land today. Thank you. God bless you. And may your many days of being in Sugar Land be fruitful, and may you have a wonderful and blessed life. Thank you.
I think Jimmy's going to say something. Oh, you just, okay. I thought I'd talk you into it, Jimmy. I love you.
Thank you.
Our next recognition is for National Public Works Week, and I'm going to ask Rob Valenzuela. Rob, if you'd come down. You tell us a little bit about it, buddy?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely. So I did ask my staff to come on down and join me in this recognition. National Public Works Week started as a public education campaign back in 1960. Across the U.S. and Canada, more than 30,000 American Public Works Association members use this week to educate the public on the importance of the contributions of public works to their daily lives. Each year, the National Public Works Week focuses on a theme, and we've actually placed a poster outside of the hallway. This year's theme is It Starts Here. which is meant to represent the many facets of civilization that grow from public works, such as infrastructure and innovation, mobility, water, wastewater, the quality of life things, if you will, for the most part. We invite residents to celebrate the efforts and impacts that public works employees have on their daily lives.
We've got a proclamation to honor you all. National Public Works Week, May 15th, or May 19th through the 25th. In 1960, the American Public Works Association sponsored National Public Works Week to emphasize the importance of public works in our community and daily lives. And whereas streets, roads, bridges, and public transportation link us together coast to coast, clean water and sanitation services keep us healthy and allow our communities to grow and prosper. And whereas the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments are materially influenced by an understanding of the importance of the work that you all perform, and where it is in the absolute public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the community to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the work that you all do. Now, therefore, I, Joe R. Zimmerman, on behalf of the members of council, recognize this as National Public Works Week and recognize the contribution that all of you make to our city as part of the Public Works Department. Rob, congratulations to you and your staff. Council members, we're going to get a picture. If y'all, they're a little bit taller in some of those groups. You guys might even see y'all back there.
All right, everyone looking up here, please. 1, 2, 3. We're gonna take a couple more. 1, 2, 3. Last one. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Yeah, that would have been bad if he'd stood up and fallen off that chair. That wouldn't have worked very well. And Rob's still up here with me. The next recognition is for American Waterworks Association, the 2019 Best Tasting Water in Texas Award. Now, you talk about some people. You talk about some people getting fired up about good tasting water. I mean, these guys work hard for this. Rob, why don't you introduce the item for us?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayor. I would like to invite two more people down for this time, Ms. Keisha Seals and Jesse Lee with the Engineering Department. On April 4th, 2019, the Texas section of the American Water Association presented the City of Sugar Land with its 2019 Best Tasting Water in Texas Award. The city earned the award through a blind taste test competition at their annual Texas Water Conference. The Texas Water Conference is the largest conference, state-run conference, if you will, in the nation for the most part. The winner of this competition actually gets to compete at the national competition in Denver later next month.
Oh, we'll win that.
Hopefully so. Hopefully so.
There ain't no doubt.
A little bit about Texas Water. It's held every year in April at various locations throughout the state. This year it was held in Houston. Cities from across the state entered into the drinking water competition. So we had all the local folks. We had folks from the North Texas area, out to El Paso. They all submitted drinking water samples, as did we. This was the first time we actually submitted our sample into the city, or into the competition. We took the sample from the middle of the city for the most part. So I think we took it somewhere off of Lakeview, if I remember correctly. So we have a sampling station out there, and that's where we took it from. It's meant to represent the water that's delivered to everybody's tap at the end of the day. The win highlights council's commitments to investing in our water rights, defending our water rights, investing in infrastructure, investing into the staff you see before you today. It also highlights city staff from across the organization. It highlights folks from the engineering department who helps us design the plants and construct the plants, to the water operators who produce the highest quality water that comes out of there, to the repair line crews who make sure that water is restored and to the customers in a proactively way, as well as flushing the lines to minimize water age. water quality technicians who take samples every single day throughout the entire city. And this award is evidence of their hard work and everybody's hard work. We're very proud of the city's commitment to providing the highest quality water to our residents, and excited to be recognized for all the hard work.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks to all of you. Rob, what I'd also like to ask is that Councilmember Gandhi and Councilmember Porter, they were both part of the Integrated Water Resource Plan Committee that did our Integrated Water Resource Plan. Katie, where's Katie? She was around there somewhere. That was a committee that we formed. I mean, that represents the level of commitment that the city of Sugar Land has to making sure that we've got not only adequate water, but it's not only safe, but it's also efficient and cost-effective for our residents. So, Steve, to you and Hamesh, thank you guys for doing that. That was over a period of, a couple of years, I think, wasn't it?
It felt like it.
We get a lot of mileage out of our council members on these committees and our staff, too, for that matter. So thank you all, Rob. Thank you, and thanks for that award. I expect you to win when you come back from the national competition. We'll bring you back up again to recognize
provide an update.
A bigger trophy, right?
Absolutely.
And then we're going to get, council members, if you'd stand, we'll get another picture, this time with we're into pictures around here. Come on.
Okay, everyone look up here, please. All right, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Last one. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Hey, Brian. Yes, sir. Our final recognition tonight is National EMS Week, and I'm going to ask our Police Chief, Doug Boker, to come down here. Doug? I think you're going to introduce it, and you've got some people that you're going to bring down front.
I do, but let me say I'm going to really hate using that good tasting water to put out a fire from here on. we might have to bottle it in or something and use something a little less
Well,
tasty.
we always get some of that reclaimed water out of that wastewater plant and use that for the
We're
fire,
going to
right?
rethink our strategy here. So good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Bogard. This is my pleasure to be here this evening. In 1974, President Gerald Ford designated this week as Emergency Medical Services Week, and I'm appreciative of the city's efforts to recognize the hard work of the dedicated members of our fire and EMS department in the realm of EMS. You'll remember in 2015, our role in EMS expanded from that of a first responder organization to a licensed provider where we now provide ambulance transportation to the citizens of Sugar Land. I'm happy to report, and in these 4.5 years in, that our service continues to improve based on the talents of our workforce, the commitment of the city, and the direction of this council.
Yeah, and that was actually an initiative of Mayor Thompson. So Mayor Thompson got that started when he was mayor, and it's been a great road ever since. We've got a proclamation, and if we could get all the fire and EMS folks, we get y'all down here, please.
I left the last part of my spiel out. That we're joined by some talent, some of our talented workforce. The rest are out running calls, serving the citizens right now. But these guys took time to join us.
Here we go. This is a proclamation for Emergency Medical Services Week. EMS Strong, Beyond the Call, May 19th through 25th, 2019. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, educators, administrators, emergency nurses, emergency physicians, and others. And whereas members of the Emergency Medical Services team, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education and dedication to enhance their life-saving skills, given the proclamation is given under my hand as the mayor. I want to thank you all for what you do. I want to thank you on behalf of not only City Council, but the citizens of Sugar Land. And we appreciate, your service. We appreciate your dedication, and we appreciate, those life-saving responses that couldn't be done unless you gals and gals were the ones that made that call. So thank you all on behalf of not only our leadership team and our staff, but the citizens of Sugar Land. Thank you. If I can get you guys to kind of get together a little bit, act like you like each other. We'll get some pictures. You sit up here. Right here. There we go. Chief.
1, 2, 3. 2 more. 1, 2, 3. Last one. 1, 2, 3. Hey, rush.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Item number 1, which is public comment. This is really reserved for anybody that wants to comment on an agenda item that is not currently listed as a public hearing. I'll make that call to anybody for the second time that wants to speak on one of the agenda items. Hearing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to item number 2, which is review of the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine business unless a council member wants to pull a particular item, in which case we'll take all the other items as one, more or less one item, and then staff will make a brief presentation, and we'll consider that item with a motion separately. Everybody okay with the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion by McCutcheon, second? Second. Got a second by Young. If you'll vote at this time, please. Oh, we got one out. And it passes, yeah, no problem. I'll wait till you vote. Already done? Okay, it's 6-0 vote. No, it's not a problem. Item number 4, contracts and agreements. 4A, consideration of an action on authorizing the execution of an event sponsorship agreement by and between the City of Sugar Land, Texas, and Ghost Entertainment 2, LLC, in the amount of $150,000 for the city's 2019 4th of July event at Crown Festival Park at Sugar Land, and a budget amendment in the amount of $150,000 to revenues and expenditures. Ms. Kimberly Terrell, the Assistant Director of Parks and Rec. Kimberly.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's my pleasure to be before you tonight with this agreement. Just a little bit of background. This project started with a special event strategic project in 2018 where we talked about, where we talked about opportunities for partnerships and sponsorships such as this for our large-scale community events. So staff proceeded to negotiate with Gary Becker, who is here with us tonight. Gary, wave. As a sponsor for the 2019 4th of July celebration. This agreement was reviewed with the EDC. It was workshopped with City Council on April 23rd, and it was also workshopped with the Parks Board last week on May 14th. So this is the event vision, red, white, and boom. So similar to the 2017 4th of July event, a fun, free family event focused on the community. We anticipate, again, about 20,000 attendees, and we're going to conclude with a super large mega fireworks show, which is the boom of red, white, and boom. So we discussed a few items at the workshop. One was marketing with radio stations, traffic and parking, and then free tickets. And one of the items that we had a bit of discussion on, and I promised to bring back to you, was discussion on the third-party sponsors and how would we limit some of those sponsors if we didn't believe that they were in line with our event. So we have added some language in this agreement before you tonight with the right to disapprove any third-party sponsors on the grounds that the city believes such sponsor would be unsuitable or inappropriate for association with the event. So these are the basic agreement terms. The sponsor is providing a $150,000 sponsorship. He's also providing a very, very large fireworks show. We're going to engage in event marketing. He's going to engage with third-party sponsors. And then 50% of the revenue from those third-party sponsors, such as food and beverage, will be reinvested into the Crown Festival Park via the special revenue account. The city will produce the event. So as with the 2017 event, the city will put on the event, do all the logistics, do all the planning that goes into the event. And we will use the $150,000 of sponsorship costs only for this event. We will ensure that everybody has the appropriate insurance and is safe. We will engage in marketing as well. And the city will have final approvals over event name, the marketing, the third-party sponsor's name, anything that goes out to the public. And we, of course, will acknowledge the sponsor's contribution. And the Parks and Recreation Department recommends that we go forward with this agreement. We've identified that the sponsorship is consistent with the values and purpose of the city, that it complies with the sponsorship policy, it's in alignment with the 2018 Special Event Strategic Project, and no additional general fund dollars are anticipated to be needed for this event. So we request approval to authorize the event sponsorship agreement between Ghost Entertainment II and the City of Sugar Land for the city's 2019 4th of July event, and a budget amendment in the amount of $150,000 to the Parks and Recreation budget in order for us to put on the event. And I'll take any questions.
Yep. Steve, you'd like to address it from EDC?
Can you go back to the last slide, Kimberly, please? Let's see, the one before that. There you go. Mm-hmm. The last statement. What might cause that last statement not to be the case?
We don't have any plans for that not to be the case. We are going to use every penny. I mean, if there's some strange, unforeseeable circumstance, but there's nothing identified at this time that would make that so that we would spend general fund dollars. In fact, we're allowing for all of the overtime, et cetera, even that would be expended out of the general fund to be contained within this $150,000.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've got a lot of experience in the department across the organization, so yeah, I couldn't figure that out either, but thank you for your assurance.
Umesh.
Questions on the tickets. I know you said that it's a free event, but it's still a ticketed event, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And we're planning to open the ticketing up at the beginning of June. Those will be free tickets. And the purpose of the tickets is severalfold. One is to kind of give us a check on how many people are planning to attend. So we can, if we need to, if it looks like, because we're advertising this on radio and media. So if it looks like we've got, we're going to keep track of it. And if it looks like we've got too many people that are going, we'll cut off the tickets. Residents will have at least a week of first dibs on the tickets. But
is there a limitation on how many tickets a resident can receive?
We haven't said it yet, but we're looking about 6 to 8. But
Okay.
There's nothing to stop a resident from, using your wife's or your husband's email address to get multiples if you really needed to.
Yeah, I think we need to be somewhat flexible on that, but I also recognize the need to have a limitation, obviously, and that way you can plan for security purposes and things,
Absolutely.
so.
And another great thing about the tickets is that we can put information on them, such as event information, how to get to the site. Also with the tickets, we'll be able to capture people's email address and their information. So if we need to communicate back to them, we can do so pretty easily.
Yeah, Kimberly, the concern I do have is in prior years when you've had it at the park, it was not a ticketed event, so you had a number of people that essentially just drove up and parked and sat there, whatever it was. And with this event being requested as a ticketed event, is there any concern that you're still going to have an influx of people who are going to drive up, thinking that it's the same thing where there isn't a requirement to have a ticket and then you're going to need to basically turn them away. I'm sure you're thinking about that, but it's just something that occurred to me that you may want to give some additional thought to.
So most of the people will be able to, there will be some on-site parking. Most of the parking will be by shuttle, and we'll be taking those tickets prior to them getting on the shuttle. So if they need to get a ticket at that time, they can do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Carol?
So will the tickets be emailed, or will they need to go to IPRC or someplace like that to pick them up?
They'll be digital.
Digital, okay.
Do I have a motion? Bridget?
I wanted to thank Gary for continuing his support of our community and producing an event like this, which I know our residents just love. So thank you very much.
I've got a motion by Councilmember Young, second by Councilmember McCutcheon. The only thing I'd say is 2 years ago when we reached an impasse on the budget and we had to eliminate the 4th of July celebration, this council, many of us made a commitment that we would use whatever influence that we had in the community to bring back a 4th of July and other events. And I think you've now seen that commitment. Gary, thanks to you for helping us fulfill that commitment. We've got a motion second, if you'll vote at this time, please. And it passes 7-0. Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you. We'll get to work.
Yes, sir. Oh, we do. Yeah. Thank you, Steve. We've got a scout in the audience. Before we go to the next agenda item, young man, could you stand up, tell us what your name and your troop and what badge you're working on?
My name is Cade. I'm part of Troop 1331, and I'm working on my second class.
Congratulations. Thank you for coming, Cade. Is that your mom and dad? Thanks, Steve. Item number 5, ordinances, resolutions. 5A, public hearing. Receiving here all persons desiring to be heard regarding the proposed reinvestment zone number 2019-02 for a 7.8620 acre tract of land located in the Sugar Land Business Park adjacent to Gillingham Lane, southwest of the intersection of West Airport Boulevard and Gillingham Lane, between the intersection Jess Pirtle Boulevard. This must have been written by an engineer. And Gillingham Lane, and the intersection of West Airport Boulevard and Gillingham Lane. Good gracious. And we've got with us our own Devin Rodriguez, Assistant Director of Economic Development. Devin, you didn't write that, I don't think. Go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So yes, we're doing this reinvestment zone public hearing tonight, but before we start, I just wanted to recognize Madison Jones with JDA, who is part of the applicant for the tax abatement, who's back there. And he is the development manager for the project that we will be mentioning as part of this presentation tonight. So I just wanted to start off first of, tax abatements in Sugar Land and why we do them. Sugar Land, we have the option to offer companies property tax abatements to encourage economic development within the city. The results of that is a value added to the tax roll, significant property tax revenue to the city after the abatement expires, which is a maximum of 10 years. And it fully benefits the local school districts because they do not participate in the tax abatement. Our program also follows the state guidelines, and our city guidelines were strengthened last year. So that's just a little bit about why we do our tax abatements here in the city of Sugar Land. And then a quick overview of the tax abatement process. So the first step, which is where we are tonight, is the creation of the reinvestment zone. And that is required. We have the public hearing and the first reading, and then at a subsequent meeting is the second reading and approval of that reinvestment zone. And then either at the second reading or at a later date, we would consider approval of a tax abatement agreement. And like I said, it can happen at the same time as that second reading and approval of the reinvestment zone. So a little bit of background on the developer applicant tonight is Johnson Development Associates. They are a nationwide industrial real estate company. They have developed over 22 million square feet of industrial space across the nation and worked with many Class A institutional quality tenants that I have listed there, varying from distribution, e-commerce, and light manufacturing facilities. So tremendous amount of experience in the industrial development industry. Few project details. JDA is proposing to build 2 speculative industrial buildings totaling a little over 300,000 square feet, and it would total an investment of about $11.6 million into this property in the Sugar Land Business Park. So a tremendous investment into our existing business park that we have here. The reinvestment zone minimum qualifications are that we would tentatively negotiate a tax abatement agreement, that the project meets the qualifying criteria outlined in our city policies, and we have reviewed this application with both the Economic Development Committee and have received concurrence on what the recommendation is for that incentive package. And then the reinvestment zone, which is 2019-02, meets the state criteria of retention and expansion of the primary employment and contribute to economic development in Sugar Land. So the reinvestment zone must meet those minimum qualifications, and that is what this application does. More detail on the exact reinvestment zone. So this is the area. It's a 17.86 acre site located in the Sugar Land Business Park and shown there on the map, kind of in the middle there of Gillingham Lane between West Airport and Jesperl. I will keep a shorter location description for that. So step 1 of approval of the reinvestment zone is, so we're creating the zone, we're having the public hearing here tonight, and the first reading of the ordinance number 2159. No inquiries or comments we have received for the public hearing as of right now. So, and then our next steps is to hold the required public hearing. Our staff recommends approval of the first reading of the ordinance. Second reading and adoption of that ordinance would come at a later date in June, and then also consideration and action on the tax abatement agreement would also come at a later date in June. So those are the recommendations and next steps. And with that, I will continue with the public hearing.
At this time, I'd ask council members to hold any clarifying questions you have. We're going to go ahead and open the public hearing to anybody that would like to speak on this particular item. Second call. Hearing no one, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. First consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land Ordinance number 2159. An ordinance of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, creating reinvestment zone number 2019-02 for 17.8620 acre tract of land located in the Sugar Land Business Park, adjacent to Gillingham Lane, southwest of the intersection of West Airport and Gillingham Lane, between the intersection of Jesperl Boulevard and Gillingham Lane, and the intersection of West Airport Boulevard and Gillingham Lane. Wow. Any questions, clarifying questions of staff? Motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, I've got a motion by Councilmember Porter. Do I have a second? Second. Got a second by McCutcheon. Any comments? You'll vote at this time, please. And it passes 7-0. Thank you, Devin. Now, council members. Item number 5B. Consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land Resolution number 1918, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, authorizing the opening of securities accounts with the FTN Financial and Rice Financial Products and the continuance of security accounts with Multibank Securities, Inc., Ladenburg Thalman Financial Services, Inc., Hilltop Securities, Inc., and Wells Fargo Brokerage Services, and the continuance of an account with Wells Fargo Brokerage Services for brokerage certificates of deposit. Our own Jennifer Brown, Director of Finance. Hey, Jennifer.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. The Public Funds Investment Act is the government code in Texas that governs how the city invests its funds. So at your last meeting, you adopted the not amended, but you did your annual adoption of the investment policy and strategy. And the Public Funds Investment Act basically dictates that we have to have an investment policy along with any other entity in the state that invests public funds. So cities, counties, school districts, water districts, they all have to follow the same rules. The state sets the minimum parameters that we have to follow, and our own investment policy then caters that or tailors it to what we feel comfortable with as a city. So state law does require annual review and adoption of both the investment policy and strategy. It also requires annual approval of broker-dealers that are authorized to conduct investment transactions with the city. And we're not authorized to conduct business with any broker-dealer who has not been authorized by the city council. So the investment policy, which was adopted at the last meeting, is more restrictive than state law, and it's set within within the policy sets the guidelines and the process for selection of broker-dealers, which, while they have to be approved annually by City Council, the policy states that we go out through a competitive selection process every 2 years. So we did that. We went in March of this year. We issued an RFQ for investment brokers and dealers. We received 12 responses, and the investment officers, we have 3 investment officers designated by City Council. We reviewed the qualified responses, and with that have recommended 6 broker-dealers for approval by City Council, and that is the up to 6 is what the investment policy states that we can authorize, along with 1 broker for certificates of deposit. We did review this with the Finance Audit Committee last Thursday, and we, as investment officers, recommend Ladenburg Thalmann, Hilltop Securities, Multi-Bank Services, Wells Fargo, Rice Financial Services, and FTN Financial, along with Wells Fargo for additionally for brokered CDs. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does someone from Finance and Audit want to comment? Carol?
Yes, the qualifications of the 6 broker-dealers were reviewed with the Finance Audit Committee, and we were very comfortable with the 6 recommended ones, as well as the brokered CD purchaser.
Any clarifying questions for staff, Umesh?
I'm just curious about this. Why do we pick 6? I mean, is there some magic number to that, or is there a reason? And also, are their fee structures basically competitive with one another? Can you kind of dig a little deeper and talk about why you choose these and what makes them unique?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we have to have a number. And so based on the size of the city and the volume of investments that we purchase, we try to rotate to where we're not always buying from the same broker-dealers. And 12 is probably way too many to manage, and 3 is probably not enough. And so we get different offerings from the brokers. Right now, there's not a very competitive secondary market for investments, but in the environment where there's a lot of trading on the secondary market, we have to get 3 quotes for any investment that we purchase competitively. So we have to have a minimum of 3. And so if you don't have options, then it really limits what you can do. And so that is the state law or the Investment Act says that you have to have 3 offers for a competitive purchase. Everything that we purchase is competitively priced. The commissions or whatever the brokers are getting is built into the price of the security, so we're not actually paying them directly. It all comes out to the yield that we're earning on the security. There's a very slim margin on the investments that we purchase, and so they don't make a lot.
Right.
But they value the relationship with the city. A lot of these, they've been in the area. We look at brokers that are active in the community, have other clients that are in the Houston and Texas area, and that they largely are serving public funds. And so that's part of the criteria that we use to select them.
Thank you.
Steve?
Jennifer, would you just, for those people that may be watching or aren't familiar with this, when we talk about investing people's money, this is a little bit different from playing the stock market, if you will. This is more like being prudent with the money. Would you describe why we're investing people's money?
Sure. So it obviously takes money to run the city. It takes money to fund payroll, capital projects, all of our contracts. So in order to earn additional interest income to help fund the budget and ensure that our funds are secure, we have a investment program that is, like I said, governed by the Public Funds Investment Act. It's very restrictive on what we can invest in. Yield is actually one of the last priorities in our investment strategy. So safety of principal and liquidity of funds are the top two priorities.
That's in our
when we look
financial
to invest
management
funds.
policy statements.
It is, and it's also in our investment strategy.
Right.
And so I don't ever want to be ahead of you or in front of you telling you that we've lost money due to an investment that we've made. And so everything that we do is top rated, low risk. It may not earn a whole lot, but safety of principal is our number one priority. And so we purchase government agencies and treasuries, T-bills. We invest in certificates of deposit that are backed by the FDIC and local government investment pools that are basically investing in the same types of investments that we purchase directly. And so we aim to diversify the investment portfolio and just really try to keep the money secure and earn a little bit of interest income while we're at it.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve. I made the motion. Councilmember Gandhi's got the second. If you vote at this time, please. And it passes 7-0. Item number 6, workshop. 6A, review of and discussion on proposed amendment to Chapter 3, Article 8, smoking in public places of the Code of Ordinances. And this item will be introduced by Councilmember Gandhi and myself. Himesh, you want to take the lead?
Sir, thank you, Mayor.
Several months ago, a young man who's sitting in the audience today, his name is Mehul Mittal, he brought an issue to my attention that dealt with e-cigarettes. And if you don't know what e-cigarettes are, they're electronic cigarettes. They're battery-operated devices that usually contain cartridges with nicotine flavors and other chemicals. An e-cigarette basically turns nicotine, which we all know is highly addictive, and other chemicals into a vapor that is inhaled and basically treated like a cigarette is. Nicotine obviously is very bad for you, and also e-cigarettes may produce or maintain nicotine dependence, and it's so powerful that every day about 1,000 teens become daily smokers. This is from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And the issue that really caught my attention was the comments from the young man who indicated that there's a rise in not only high schools but middle schools of use of these e-cigarettes. In fact, the CDC says that more than 3 million middle and high school students are current users of e-cigarettes. E-cigarettes come in fruit and candy flavors. More than 85% of youth age 12 to 17 use e-cigarettes, said they use flavored e-cigarettes, per the Surgeon General from 2016. And the FDA quoted that consumers have no way of knowing the doses that they are inhaling, the types of concentrations of potentially harmful chemicals, or if e-cigarettes are safe for their intended use. Our current ordinances do not regulate this. Right. We do have regulations in place that cover your normal cigarettes, but they do not cover electronic cigarettes. And so what I wanted to gain the consensus of council today was to move the item forward, let staff research it, and bring back an eventual ordinance that would also basically add e-cigarettes to our current smoking regulations. The other thing, just some of the other risk, and I can provide you some of this research that I have, but ultrafine particles can go deep into the lungs when you breathe. Volatile organic compounds such as benzene, which is found in car exhaust, could be found in e-cigarettes. Bottom line is these things are dangerous. And, obviously one of the tenets of our community is to have a healthy, robust environment. And really it gets down to safety for our children. I think it's important that we set an example for this. And many of the cities in the surrounding area have already implemented this and integrated e-cigarettes into their current smoking ordinances. With that, Mayor, I would like to ask the young man to say a few words about this item. He was prepared to do that, so if we could invite him up.
Bring him up to the podium.
If you could introduce yourself and give your background and your address.
Name and your address, yes, sir. Welcome.
Hello, fellow council members. My name is Mehul Mittal, and I'm a current junior at Dulles High School. What did you mean by address?
Where you live.
Oh, yeah.
Know where you live.
So my address is 506 Somerset Drive. I live in Telfair, 506 Somerset Drive, Sugar Land, Texas, 77479. And so before I do say a few words, I'd like to thank Mayor Zimmerman and Councilman Gandhi for allowing me to come out here today and talk about a prevalent issue in our society. And so vaping, as you know, as Councilman Gandhi said, is a huge problem that's continuing to grow in our society. It's spreading like a wildfire, especially among high school students. And based on what I've seen, as in my own experiences as a student at Dulles High School, I know that more and more students are starting to become involved with using electronic cigarettes, especially because of issues with peer pressure or with social media showing it as a norm in society. And I've seen more and more students become involved because they've seen their friends start to do it, or they're simply bored and want something new to do. And so as a student who was involved with substance abuse prevention advocacy since the 9th grade, I wanted to start something new. And so where I started is with hosting events at Dulles High School. I started with hosting 3v3 smoking prevention awareness tournaments where I'd invite students who I knew were at risk with using vaping devices to these tournaments, and I would give presentations before holding such a tournament, and really just addressing the issue so that they would be more aware of what was going on. Other events that I hosted, including booths at several community events and a school-wide assembly at Dulles High School that addressed the issue of electronic cigarettes. Later on, during my sophomore year, I tried to expand my ventures to try to prevent this issue from spreading in our community by creating my own nonprofit by the name of Youth and Health, which dealt with preventing vaping and advancing physical fitness among students, especially with high schoolers. And this really gave me a platform to further expand my efforts to try to prevent at-risk students from getting involved with vaping, and it did have great effects. It helped a lot of different students across our district, especially in FBISD. But during my junior year, I realized that I could make a greater impact. And so I started doing research on how I could really create new impacts in Sugar Land and what was really going on, what current trends were occurring, and I came upon this issue of electronic cigarettes and how they weren't really addressed in legislation. And so I came to this consensus and came to Mr. Gandhi a few months ago, talked to him about the situation, and I realized that if we really want to prevent this issue from spreading, and we want to create a happier, stronger, and healthier community, we can really do so by banning electronic cigarettes in all places where regular cigarettes are banned to show that they have the same detrimental impacts. And so with all that said, I strongly urge for you all to consider this amendment, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bill. What we've had looked into a little bit, Himesh,
Yes.
After you introduced it, there is a bill right now pending in the legislature. What I'd ask that we do, if everybody's in consensus, is let's see if the bill passes the legislature. If it does, it's going to overlay the state of Texas. If it doesn't, then I think what we'll do is we'll get staff to do the research as you suggested, do the research, and then with council's concurrence, then we'll do the research, make a recommendation, and then we can take up the amendment to the
Yeah, the only comment I'll make to that, Mayor, and I appreciate that. my understanding of the bill that is being discussed at the legislature deals with sales to the age, meaning they'll still sell it. One of the gaps in our current ordinance is that we do have prohibitions on public smoking, essentially.
Right.
And what I would like to also put forth for the council's consideration is an amendment to the current code of ordinances to simply add e-cigarettes along with cigarettes to the item. So I think the legislation that's being proposed may be a little bit different than.
May not go as far.
It may not go as far.
Okay.
So.
Comments for the council members?
I agree. It's at the legislative level. It's if you're under 21, then you can't buy an e-cigarette, but they're going to get a hold of them anyway. But it's clamping down on walking around in public with e-cigarettes. If we could do that, I think that would really send a message of how we want to conduct ourselves as a society here, in our area, and to let kids know that this isn't just some cool thing that you can do, because it leads to more dangerous things when it's just so easy to have them around. And I know at my son's high school, they were getting fined $25 if someone found one on someone else. So the schools are taking it seriously, and I think with a follow-up on the city to back up the school districts, I think that would be a fabulous thing to do for the youth.
Okay. Carol?
Well, thank you so much for bringing this matter to our attention. I really appreciate it. And I definitely support adding a ban on e-cigarettes to our ordinances.
Anyone else, Bridget?
Yeah, I want to thank you. Also, you're very well spoken. It makes me proud that Dulles is now actually in Stuart Jacobson's district. But I've always said that safety is the number one thing we should do as council members. And anytime we can do anything that will keep our residents safe, we need to do it. And this definitely, a lot of people are fooled and they don't realize how much nicotine they're actually getting with e-cigarettes, and it is very dangerous. And I think we need to do whatever we can do to limit that within our city.
Alan, I think you've got
clear direction there.
Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve, go ahead.
There's a long history in the United States of attempts to regulate morality and choices of individuals, and they tend to always fail. I thought the basis for any regulation we have is to keep the secondhand smoke or the annoyance off people that aren't smoking. And so the basis of what we're doing is saying we don't want to expose people that don't want it to it. And so I don't think we're going to try to regulate their choice. We're just trying to say you can't do that if you're going to impact the other people around you.
Right, and just for clarity, the suggestion is not to ban the use citywide. You can do whatever you want wherever you have privacy rights. But we currently prohibit the use of cigarettes in certain establishments, public establishments, right? So this is
Sugar Land Town Square.
Sugar Land Town Square, perfect example. So it's really a matter of expanding that prohibition to include a device that essentially does the same thing.
No, I'm in support of that action.
Right.
I'm just saying, and hopefully it will send a signal that that's not a good behavior that we recommend in the city. But I think the basis of this whole thing that makes it legitimate is to say your right to do whatever you want ends when it impacts the person next to you.
Agreed. Right.
Yeah, okay.
Agreed.
Well, thank you. Thank you for item number 7, City Council City Manager report. 7A, City Council Member report. Stuart, the newest council member, we're going to start with you.
I've had a busy week.
I bet you have.
On Tuesday, I was sworn in. On Wednesday morning, I attended the Police Week Memorial for the fallen peace officers in Texas. Wednesday evening, I spoke at Councilmember Mitchell's retirement reception. Thursday, I attended the State of the City luncheon for the City of Meadows Place, our neighbor to the north. Friday, I attended a ribbon cutting for Behavioral Innovations, a new business in District 3. And Saturday, I attended the Earth Day program right out here in Town Square. And on Sunday, I rested.
Jacobson covered all my events, so I'll pass. So.
Bridget.
Thank you. I've had the pleasure of spending a week in Antigua, Guatemala on a mission trip that was sponsored by the First United Methodist Church of Sugar Land and put together by our own Dr. Gene Hebner. So it was very successful with 90 surgeries in 4 days. And then I came back and went to lunch for you today, Mr. Mayor, to Alderman Terry Henley's retirement. And he has been an alderman with the City of Meadows Place for 32 years. So he's given a lot of his service to the betterment of our community, and he continues to serve. So it was a really wonderful event, and I was very honored to have attended.
Thank you, Bridget. Carol.
In addition to what Councilmember Jacobson attended, I also hosted TERS 4 at a Skeeters game, and I attended groundbreaking for a cause at the Marcel property in Riverstone, and Marcel donated $5,000 each to 6 different charities, and I dug up a $5,000 donation to the Fort Bend Educational Awards Foundation, and attended the Houston Museum of Natural Science. We got a preview on the new exhibit that's going to be opening up there before the end of the year. Met with staff on drainage issues after our recent rain event. And I participated in the Bike to Work, Bike to School Day, which is a great event, and I love participating in that every year. And I spoke at a Taiwanese walkathon and attended the grand opening of the Lawn Arena at the mall.
Steve.
Gee, I don't know if there's anything left to report here. The only thing, everything else has been covered, I think, except Councilmember Lane and I attended the annual HOA meeting for Barrington Place, and I thank her for coming.
Jennifer.
Before our huge rain event, I went on a tour of our Greatwood pump stations, of our wells, just to kind of look that over and talk about the future plans for Greatwood and putting in extra tanks for our groundwater. Went into some swearing-ins, Chimney Stone HOA meeting with Stuart Jacobson and the mayor. The National Police Memorial Service did some badge pinnings on our new employees in our EMS department. That was very nice. And attended a luncheon today in Houston with the Builders Association.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm going to highlight a couple things. One, at the HOA that Jennifer mentioned, the Chimney Stone HOA, staff did an excellent job of making a presentation there. We made that presentation with Lid 2 with Mike Stone. I think it was well received given the extraordinary event that we had, rainfall that we had. I'd also like to highlight on Saturday, Carol, you attended the opening of the Lawn First Colony. We had our Assistant City Manager, Doug Brinkley, and his wife there, Jake, and Melissa from tourism. So it was well represented, and we got a chance to open it, even though it had been open since December. And for those of you that haven't seen that, the lawn at First Colony, I think they did an excellent job. And that was facilitated by this council and General Growth. So I'd highlight that. I also like to say, recognize our own Rick Ramirez. Rick has been representing us in the legislature. That's no easy task with those boneheads up in Austin. They are pretty clueless up there. I normally do, Councilman. But we've had, Rick's done an excellent job of representing this city. Many of you, many police chief, fire chief, others, myself, others have been there. We've testified. We've taken out of our time to go up there and make sure the process works. We're getting ready to wind it down, and we'll see if our legislature can actually deliver on some of the commitments that the governor and lieutenant governor made. So with that, I'll wrap it up and turn it over to the city manager. Item number 7B.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, city offices will be closed Monday, May 27th, in celebration of Memorial Day. However, you'll have something to do nonetheless, as the city will be hosting our annual Memorial Day event at Sugar Land Memorial Park. That'll start at 10 o'clock. Hopefully it will be a little coolish. Usually it's a little hard to find shade, but hopefully the weather will cooperate. We'll have a wonderful event in honor of our veterans. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thanks, Alan. We hope all of you will come out and recognize the sacrifices that the men and women of our military made so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy. For those of us that have spent time overseas in other countries, I would tell you never ever take for granted what we have here, because it doesn't exist anywhere but here. Thank y'all. Motion adjourned.